Have you ever wondered why two people can eat the exact same meal, yet one feels energized while the other becomes tired, sluggish, and hungry again just a few hours later? The answer may have less to do with willpower than with a hidden process taking place inside nearly every cell of the body. It's called insulin sensitivity, and researchers now believe it plays a central role in how we age, how we manage our weight, and how well our bodies use the food we eat. What's even more surprising is this: evidence suggests that insulin sensitivity isn't fixed. In many people, measurable improvements may begin to appear within weeks after consistent lifestyle changes, not because of a miracle diet or a single supplement, but because the body has an incredible ability to adapt when given the right signals. However, that's only the beginning of the story. Scientists have spent decades studying why insulin resistance develops in the first place. What they discovered challenged many long held beliefs about metabolism. It turns out that blood sugar is only one piece of a much larger puzzle involving muscles, the liver, body fat, sleep, stress, and even the bacteria living inside our digestive system. Understanding this science could change the way you think about your health forever. Insulin is often described as the key that unlocks the doors of your cells. After you eat, carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, which enters your bloodstream. Your pancreas responds by releasing insulin, a hormone that helps move that glucose from the blood into your muscles, liver, and other tissues where it can be used or stored for future energy. In a healthy body, this process happens so efficiently that you rarely notice it. Blood sugar rises slightly after a meal, insulin does its job, and everything returns to balance. But researchers have observed that over time, cells can become less responsive to insulin's signal. Imagine knocking on a door that once opened immediately. Now it takes louder knocks and repeated attempts before anyone answers. The pancreas compensates by producing more insulin, sometimes for years, just to keep blood sugar within a normal range. This condition is known as insulin resistance. What's remarkable is that insulin resistance often develops quietly. Many people feel perfectly healthy while changes are already taking place beneath the surface. Energy levels may fluctuate, hunger may increase, weight may become more difficult to manage. Yet routine blood sugar tests can still appear normal because the body is working overtime to compensate. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. For many years, excess body weight was thought to be the primary cause of insulin resistance. While body fat certainly plays an important role, scientists later discovered that where fat is stored may matter even more than how much there is. Visceral fat, the type stored deep around the abdominal organs, behaves differently from the fat just beneath the skin. Rather than simply storing energy, visceral fat is metabolically active. It releases signaling molecules that may influence inflammation and interfere with the body's ability to respond efficiently to insulin. Research indicates that even modest reductions in visceral fat are associated with improvements in insulin sensitivity. Interestingly, these changes may occur before dramatic changes appear on the bathroom scale. This explains why some people notice improvements in energy, blood sugar regulation, or metabolic health long before they experience significant weight loss. Yet, that's not the most interesting part. Scientists have found that skeletal muscle plays one of the most important roles in glucose regulation. In fact, muscles account for the majority of insulin-stimulated glucose uptake after a meal. Every time muscles contract during physical activity, they become more effective at pulling glucose out of the bloodstream. Even more fascinating, this process doesn't always require large amounts of insulin. Researchers have observed that during and after exercise, muscle cells activate additional pathways that help transport glucose inside the cell. This means physical activity may improve glucose handling through multiple biological mechanisms. That's one reason why even a simple walk after meals has attracted so much scientific interest. Several studies suggest that light movement following eating may help support healthier post-meal blood sugar responses compared with remaining seated. The activity doesn't need to be exhausting. In many cases, a comfortable walk lasting 10 to 20 minutes appears sufficient to encourage muscles to use circulating glucose more efficiently. Most people never hear about what happened next. Scientists began comparing different types of exercise to understand which had the greatest impact on insulin sensitivity. The answer wasn't as straightforward as expected. Aerobic exercise, such as brisk walking, cycling, or swimming, consistently showed benefits. Resistance training also demonstrated impressive effects by increasing muscle mass, one of the body's largest reservoirs for glucose storage. Instead of one approach outperforming the other, evidence increasingly suggested that combining both forms of exercise may provide complementary benefits. This finding reshaped how many experts think about metabolic health. Rather than focusing only on burning calories, researchers started paying closer attention to preserving and building muscle throughout adulthood. Muscle isn't simply about strength or appearance, it's one of the body's most valuable metabolic organs. As we age, maintaining muscle becomes increasingly important because natural muscle loss can gradually reduce the body's ability to process glucose efficiently. Strength training may therefore support healthy aging in ways that extend far beyond physical fitness. However, movement is only part of the equation. What happens on your plate sends powerful signals throughout the body's metabolic network. Many people assume carbohydrates are the enemy, but nutrition science paints a much more nuanced picture. Researchers have consistently found that carbohydrate quality often matters more than eliminating carbohydrates altogether. Whole grains, legumes, vegetables, fruits, and other minimally processed foods contain fiber, vitamins, minerals, and naturally occurring plant compounds that influence digestion and metabolism differently than highly refined foods. Fiber deserves special attention. Unlike digestible carbohydrates, much of dietary fiber passes through the digestive system relatively intact. Along the way, it slows the absorption of glucose, supports beneficial gut bacteria, and may contribute to more gradual changes in blood sugar after meals. Evidence also suggests that people who regularly consume higher fiber diets tend to have better long-term metabolic health. But researchers later discovered something surprising. The order in which foods are eaten may also influence blood sugar responses. Some studies have observed that beginning a meal with vegetables or protein before eating more carbohydrate-rich foods may lead to smaller post-meal glucose rises compared with consuming carbohydrates first. Scientists continue studying why this occurs, but slower stomach emptying and hormonal responses appear to play important roles. It's a small behavioral change that doesn't require expensive products or complicated meal plans. Then another unexpected discovery emerged from laboratories around the world. The liver turned out to be one of the earliest organs affected during the development of insulin resistance. The liver normally acts like a carefully managed warehouse. It stores glucose after meals and releases it between meals when the body needs energy. As insulin resistance develops, this finely tuned system may become less responsive. The liver can begin releasing glucose even when the bloodstream already contains plenty. Researchers believe this contributes to elevated fasting blood sugar over time. Fortunately, studies indicate that lifestyle changes supporting overall metabolic health may also improve how the liver responds to insulin. This brings us to another factor that many people underestimate: sleep. For years, sleep was viewed mainly as a way to recover from a busy day. Today, scientists recognize it as one of the body's most important metabolic regulators. Even short periods of insufficient sleep have been associated with reduced insulin sensitivity in experimental studies. Researchers believe several mechanisms may contribute. Sleep influences stress hormones, appetite regulating hormones, inflammation, and the body's internal clock. When sleep becomes consistently disrupted, these systems can begin working against one another. Many people notice stronger cravings for highly processed foods after a poor night's sleep. That's not simply a lack of discipline. Hormonal changes may increase hunger while reducing feelings of fullness. Over weeks and months, this combination may create conditions that make healthy eating far more challenging. And this is where the science becomes even more fascinating. The body's circadian rhythm doesn't just regulate sleep. Nearly every organ follows internal biological clocks, including the pancreas, liver, digestive system, and muscles. Researchers have observed that the body often processes nutrients differently depending on the time of day. While many questions remain under investigation, evidence suggests that aligning meals, activity, and sleep with consistent daily routines may support healthier metabolic function. It's another reminder that health isn't determined by a single food or one workout. It's the result of thousands of biological conversations happening throughout the body every day. Then scientists uncovered yet another hidden player: the trillions of microorganisms living inside the gut. For decades, these microbes received relatively little attention. Today, researchers recognize that they participate in digestion, immune function, and the production of compounds that may influence metabolism. Diets rich in diverse plant foods appear to encourage a more diverse gut microbiome, which researchers associate with several aspects of overall health. Although this field continues to evolve, early evidence suggests that the relationship between gut bacteria and insulin sensitivity is both complex and important. What we eat doesn't simply nourish us. It also nourishes an entire ecosystem that may influence how efficiently our bodies process nutrients. By this point, you might be wondering whether all of these factors can truly make a noticeable difference within a month. The answer is more encouraging and more realistic than many people expect. Researchers generally agree that meaningful metabolic improvements are not the result of a single dramatic change. Instead, they often emerge from consistent daily habits repeated over time. In controlled studies, some participants have shown improvements in markers related to insulin sensitivity within several weeks after adopting healthier eating patterns, becoming more physically active, improving sleep, and reducing prolonged sedentary behavior. The exact timeline varies from person to person depending on age, genetics, starting health, medications, and many other factors. Yet the real discovery came years later. The habits that support insulin sensitivity are often the same habits associated with healthier aging overall. Rather than targeting just one number on a lab report, they may support cardiovascular health, brain function, physical performance, and long-term well-being through interconnected biological pathways. And in the next part, we'll explore the practical side of this science. We'll examine the daily habits that research suggests can have the greatest impact, the common mistakes that quietly undermine progress, and why some seemingly healthy routines may not work as expected. Most importantly, we'll look at how small, consistent decisions can add up to meaningful changes over weeks, months, and years. If improving insulin sensitivity is less about finding a shortcut and more about sending the body better signals every day, the next question becomes obvious: which signals matter the most? The answer isn't hidden inside an expensive supplement or a complicated diet plan. Instead, decades of research point toward a handful of daily habits that work together. Each one may seem modest on its own, but when combined consistently, they create an environment that encourages the body to function more efficiently. Think of insulin sensitivity like an orchestra. One instrument alone cannot perform the entire symphony, but when each section plays in harmony, the result is something much greater than the sum of its parts. Let's begin with one of the most overlooked habits of all: movement throughout the day. Many people believe that a single hour at the gym cancels out the effects of sitting for the remaining 15 hours. Yet researchers have observed that prolonged, uninterrupted sitting may influence metabolic health even in people who exercise regularly. However, that's not the most interesting part. The body appears to respond positively to frequent movement, even when that movement is relatively light. Standing up every hour, walking around the house, taking the stairs, stretching between meetings, or walking while talking on the phone all create muscle contractions. Every contraction represents another opportunity for muscles to use glucose. Over months and years, these small decisions accumulate. This helps explain why people living in so-called blue zones, regions associated with exceptional longevity, often don't spend hours exercising in a gym. Instead, movement is naturally woven throughout their day. They garden, walk to nearby destinations, climb hills, prepare meals, and remain physically engaged well into older age. Their bodies rarely stay still for long. Then researchers asked another important question. Does the intensity of exercise matter? The answer appears to be yes, but perhaps not in the way many people expect. Moderate aerobic activity improves cardiovascular fitness and supports glucose regulation. Resistance training increases and preserves muscle mass. Short bursts of higher intensity exercise may further challenge the muscles and improve how efficiently they use energy. Rather than competing with one another, these approaches appear to complement each other. For many adults, an ideal weekly routine includes regular walking, strength training several times per week, flexibility exercises, and activities that elevate the heart rate according to individual ability and medical guidance. Consistency almost always outperforms perfection. And this is where another misconception begins to fall apart. Many people focus exclusively on what they should remove from their diet: less sugar, less bread, less dessert, less snacking. While reducing highly processed foods can certainly support metabolic health, researchers increasingly emphasize another question: what should we add? Studies consistently associate diets rich in vegetables, legumes, fruits, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and healthy sources of protein with better long-term metabolic outcomes. These foods deliver fiber, essential nutrients, antioxidants, and naturally occurring plant compounds that work together in remarkably complex ways. Researchers continue discovering new interactions between these compounds and the body's metabolic pathways. In many cases, foods appear to be more powerful as complete packages than as isolated nutrients. That's one reason nutrition science has gradually shifted away from viewing single vitamins or supplements as the answer to better health. The overall dietary pattern matters far more. Yet the story becomes even more fascinating when scientists examine protein. Protein does much more than support muscles. It contributes to satiety, helping people feel full for longer after meals. It supplies amino acids needed for tissue repair. Combined with resistance exercise, it supports maintaining lean muscle during aging. Since muscle plays such an important role in glucose disposal, preserving muscle becomes increasingly valuable with every passing decade. Researchers often describe healthy aging as preserving function rather than simply extending lifespan. Being able to climb stairs, carry groceries, travel independently, play with grandchildren, recover after illness. These everyday abilities depend heavily on maintaining strength, and maintaining strength depends, in part, on nourishing muscle appropriately. Most people never hear about another important factor: stress. When people hear the word stress, they often think only about emotions, but the body experiences stress biologically. Deadlines, financial concerns, poor sleep, chronic illness, social isolation, even persistent worrying all activate stress response systems designed to help humans survive immediate danger. In short bursts, this response is remarkably effective. The body releases hormones that mobilize energy, increase alertness, and prepare muscles for action. The problem arises when those signals remain elevated day after day. Researchers believe chronic stress may contribute to changes in appetite, sleep quality, inflammation, and metabolic regulation. Many people notice that during stressful periods, they crave highly processed foods, exercise less, and sleep poorly. Those changes can reinforce one another. The result isn't simply a lack of motivation, it's a cascade of biological responses influencing daily behavior. Fortunately, researchers have also studied practices that may help reduce chronic stress. Regular physical activity, mindfulness meditation, time in nature, meaningful social relationships, deep breathing exercises, engaging hobbies, adequate sleep. These habits may not eliminate life's challenges, but evidence suggests they can help regulate the body's stress response. And this is where the science takes another unexpected turn. One of the most powerful predictors of long-term health may not be found in a laboratory test at all. It's consistency. Researchers repeatedly observe that sustainable habits outperform extreme interventions. Crash diets often produce rapid changes that prove difficult to maintain. Highly restrictive eating patterns frequently lead to frustration and eventual abandonment. The body responds far better to routines that become part of everyday life. Imagine improving just 1% each day, walking after dinner, adding another serving of vegetables, replacing sugary beverages with water more often, going to bed 30 minutes earlier, strength training twice this week instead of not at all. Each choice may seem insignificant, but compound those decisions over months and years, and the difference becomes remarkable. Financial experts often describe compound interest as one of the most powerful forces in investing. Health works in much the same way. Healthy habits generate biological dividends. Then scientists explored another fascinating question. Why do some people respond differently to the exact same lifestyle changes? Genetics provide part of the answer. Age also matters. Hormonal changes influence metabolism. Existing medical conditions play a role. Medications may affect glucose regulation. Gut microbiome differences may contribute. Even previous levels of physical fitness influence how rapidly the body adapts. This is why personalized medicine has become an increasingly important area of research. Evidence suggests there is no single diet or exercise program that works perfectly for everyone. Instead, successful long term strategies often share common principles while allowing flexibility for individual preferences and lifestyles. This perspective removes unnecessary guilt. If one approach doesn't suit your body or your schedule, it doesn't mean you failed. It simply means another evidence based strategy may fit better. However, there's one mistake researchers consistently warn against: waiting for motivation. Motivation is unpredictable. Habits are reliable. People who successfully maintain healthier lifestyles often build routines that require less daily decision making. Breakfast becomes consistent. Walking becomes automatic. Exercise has a scheduled time. Sleep follows a regular pattern. Healthy choices become the default rather than requiring constant willpower. Over time, identity begins replacing effort. Instead of thinking, I should exercise, the mindset gradually shifts toward, I'm someone who takes care of my health. That subtle psychological shift may be more important than many people realize. Then comes perhaps the most encouraging discovery of all. The human body remains adaptable throughout much of life. Research has shown that older adults can increase strength, improve cardiovascular fitness, build muscle, enhance balance, support metabolic health, improve insulin sensitivity. Age certainly changes how quickly adaptation occurs, but it does not eliminate the body's remarkable capacity to respond. In many studies involving middle aged and older adults, meaningful improvements have been observed after adopting consistent, evidence based lifestyle habits. This message carries tremendous hope. Healthy aging is not about becoming younger, it's about preserving function, independence, resilience, and quality of life for as long as possible. Imagine two futures. In one, small, unhealthy habits continue unnoticed. Years pass, energy gradually declines, movement becomes more difficult, daily tasks require greater effort. The changes feel sudden, yet they actually developed little by little. Now imagine another path. The same years pass, but daily walks become routine. Strength improves. Meals become richer in whole foods. Sleep becomes more consistent. Stress is managed more intentionally. Health isn't perfect. No one's is. But the body receives better signals every single day. Those signals accumulate. The difference between these futures rarely comes from one dramatic event. It comes from ordinary choices repeated often enough that they become extraordinary in their long-term effects. Scientists continue studying metabolism, aging, nutrition, and insulin sensitivity, and every year new discoveries deepen our understanding. Yet one conclusion appears again and again across many areas of research. The human body is dynamic. It constantly adapts to the environment we create through our behaviors. Every meal sends information. Every workout sends information. Every hour of sleep sends information. Every stressful day, every relaxing walk, every decision quietly communicates with trillions of cells working around the clock. Perhaps that's the most inspiring idea of all. Health isn't determined by a single breakfast, one missed workout, or one weekend of indulgence. It's shaped by patterns, by direction, by consistency, and by the willingness to keep making better choices, even when progress feels invisible. Because many of the most important changes begin long before we can see them. Cells become more responsive, muscles become stronger, the liver functions more efficiently, the cardiovascular system adapts, the brain benefits from improved blood flow and metabolic balance. These quiet improvements lay the foundation for healthier years ahead. The decisions we make today may seem small, but over years and decades, those choices can shape how we age, how we feel, and how long we remain healthy. That's why understanding the science matters. If you found this exploration valuable, consider sharing it with someone who wants to better understand their health. Staying informed is one of the most powerful tools we have, and as science continues to evolve, each new discovery gives us another opportunity to make wiser choices for the future.